Hello, person. If you don't know me, I'm Vicky. I'm an international student and I study at USC. I'm graduating in a few weeks actually, which is very exciting. I'm here today to help you write the most effective application you possibly can, I guess. I know there's tutors who are hired to write these things, but they charge a lot of money. As a narrative studies student and entertainment industry minor, I can just give you a few tips on how to write or how to storytell more effectively, and based on my experience, what admissions committees like about application essays, what qualities differentiate a good application from a bad one. So here are my tips. I got my coffee out too because, it's gonna be a long session, guys. About these applications, you must know that in order to understand why you need to write these applications, you need to understand how storytelling works in general, which you might already know based on your essays that you've written, but you have to understand this is a crucial step to your application because they're giving you a chance to actually explain who you are. In my country and other countries, this is not a step. They just admit you based on your grades and test scores, and that's it. Here is your chance to explain what kind of background you're coming from. Maybe you've had some traumas like I referenced in previous videos, and if you elaborate on those, maybe they're gonna look at your application differently. Maybe they'll be more considerate of lower grades or lower SAT scores. So it's really important that you write this as a little short story, as if you wrote it for a creative writing or English class. It is literally a shrunk story. Just please understand that this is a shrunk creative story that you're writing about your life. You're detailing a personal story that must be really, really personal. That's why it's called personal statement. And this story will show the admission committee who you are in your environment and what challenges you have faced, so they get a better understanding of you. And when they look at your scores and your essays and your activities, they get more of a fuller picture of who you are. Some of you have contacted me to review your essays and stuff like this, and guys, if I had all the time in the world, I wish I could, but writing these essays very, very time consuming. You must know, it's not just gonna be one draft that you write and then maybe you do some corrections and then you're done. No, this process should be meticulous. You should have more than not 650 words. You should write a lot more than that in your first drafts, and then you'll be cutting down on those, and then you're gonna polish your application towards the end. So this is a process I cannot do for you because you really need someone who can sit down with you and go step by step. You need constant feedback on it, and you need to add to it or take away from it as much as you can based on your experience. Because of this reason, I recommend you to check out Fulbright, which is a global exchange program sort of foundation. It was originally meant to build connections, international connections between the US and other countries. Everyone is supposed to have a Fulbright in their own country, and there's American interns there who are literally there to help you with all this. Fulbright has all the scholarship sources that you guys are asking me about. You can literally just email them and they're gonna point you to a person whose job is to know about these things. What kind of scholarship are you eligible for based on your nationality? Because these scholarships, scholarships in general, are usually based on nationality. Because maybe you have some person like Rihanna who decides to fund education for Brazilians. You know what I mean? So these dudes at Fulbright are really, really up to date regarding what scholarships are available to you in your home country. And also they can talk more about community college to you and all these things. And you can go, and pretty sure they have some SAT prep courses that are free. You just have to sign up. You can also practice for TOEFL there. They should have a space for you to sit down by the computers and take some sample tests. I definitely recommend. Like, I've also done this while I was still in Hungary because I was interested in applying to the US, and they did help me out a lot. Like, she would sit down with me and brainstorm for my application. So this is the best resource I can give you, because I cannot give you my full attention on your application. As soon as you start, working on your application, is to contact Fulbright and ask them all of your questions that you're like eager to know, because they'll be the people to know. Now that Fulbright is out of the way, and this should be the first thing you do, let's start with tips. You really must brainstorm this, guys. It's like very important. This is like the most important process of your application, besides, making sure that they receive your scores. Pick an event that has transformed you in some way, or maybe talk about your family background. You're a brother who's in charge of, your little sister, or maybe you've had to help out at home and also work because, you're struggling financially. Maybe you're the caretaker of one of your relatives. Maybe you've had a best friend who then had to leave for like forever, and you had to maybe find yourself again. Anything, guys, anything that you can reflect on in your life that made you change in some way and transform into a better person. This is almost like when you're watching a movie, and like when you start off, you get a character who's unaware of their surroundings in a way, and then by the end, they learn their lesson and they're adjusted to the world. So this is what they're looking for. You have to explain a story like this, sort of. I'm not sure if it makes sense. Do not gloat, okay? Like, I know what it feels like, because I remember when I first started writing these essays, and all I could think of was like how I could impress the committee. I was just thinking, I was looking at it from their view. I was like, okay, so if I'm reading this, like so I have to list that I achieved this and this and this in high school, because this way I'm like emphasizing on it. No, guys, no. They already know what you've done. Like, your activity sheet is in order to define these accomplishments, and they're gonna see it. Think of your activity sheet as a mini resume, and then like you have your grades, which are pretty self-explanatory, and you can also elaborate if your grades weren't that good on why. Like, there's a section for that as well. So this part of your application shouldn't be a justification of anything regarding your grades or your achievements. I mean, you can talk about, let's say, if you were like a national champion of something, of how that changed you personally from the inside, but don't talk about, I did this, so now I'm the best, and that's why you should admit me to the school. Like, this part of your application should just be like a letter to, almost like to yourself, I guess, like as if you were telling your own story. Like, if you ever wanted to, win an Oscar, like imagine this is your biopic, and like these are the moments of your life you pick to show to the people. Think of it this way. Again, do not try to gloat about your achievements in this section. Number 4, yeah, it's 4. Number 5. Like I mentioned before, write as much as you can in the beginning, because you don't want to limit yourself to the word count when you start writing a story. This goes for any sort of writing. Like, even if there's, like a 10-page maximum, I'm not talking about essays, I'm talking about like creative writing assignments or something like this. Like, if you have more to say, then just say it, and then in the end you can go back and cut down on parts that are like less meaningful. But in order to like bring those emotions out, you need to be able to just like let your ideas flow. I highly recommend this because USC taught me this, and once a tutor told me this, like, it changed my life, because it's really true, like you shouldn't start immediately limiting yourself as soon as you start creating. That's not how you create. You come up with the outcome, and then you eliminate based on which is the best end product. So do that. For this is more of just like a bonus writing tip. It's like, try to use more sensory descriptions, because it draws in the reader. I also learned this in creative writing. So let's say, give details about how the places looked like where you were. Let's say if you were in Germany, in Berlin, and you were walking by the Berlin Wall when you were inspired to do something that changed your course of action in life, and then you decided to apply to a German university, then define this moment. Like, how did that look like? What did you smell around you? Were there a lot of people? Did you hear people talking? Or was it completely quiet and you could just hear, you know, the streets, the honks, but it was an empty streets, an empty, numb feeling inside? What led you to that thought pattern? Can you give more description? What are the colors around you? Was it a sunny day? Was it a rainy day? Was it dull? Were the people wearing nice colors? Did you see any restaurants or cafes? Were people smoking? These are interesting details because when you're trying to put yourself in a situation, the more details one gives, the easier. I know these are self-explanatory things, but when you're writing, you can just like sort of stuck in your head, or like I do get stuck in my head a lot. And this is why it's like your first draft is usually called the vomit draft, because when you write that, you're kind of just like, you know, explaining the emotions that were going through your head. But when you get back to the second one, you should try and put yourself more as like a character and define to the reader what was actually happening around you. And you don't necessarily say emotion. I mean, you can say that I felt this way. Yes, and you should actually say it. Like, you should emphasize on the feelings. You can also take more of a creative approach. Like, you know, you don't have to just like write it as like it's from your perspective. You can write it from someone else's perspective. You can write it from like, I don't know, an object's perspective. There's really truly no limit to how you should be writing this, because it's just your chance to give the committee a picture of you. So yeah, if you're more creative, you can also come up with some sort of thing like that. You can write it in more of a poetic style, or you can, I don't know, rap it, anything, whatever floats your boat. So I might read my personal statement to you guys, but I'm still hesitant about this. Like, it's really, really personal. So for now, these are my application tips for you guys. I hope these help. I will link some books below that have previously admitted students' application essays so you can read through them. I hope this helped, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, comment down below. Good luck on your applications. Do not forget the deadlines. Oh, and again, check out Fulbright. I'm gonna link their official website below as well, but you should really search for Fulbright in your own country so you get, you know, like more of a direct experience.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.